Good morning. Welcome back to the Watchman News and the Art of War 2nd edition. This is lesson 10. So, I'm going to talk about motivation. I'm going to talk about goals. And there are several different things that I actually could have named this episode, this lesson. And I refrained because, the point is I want people to listen to this stuff. This is important. As individuals, as each of us as an individual, this stuff's important. I know that the previous two videos probably rubbed a few people the wrong way, and in fact they didn't get a lot of views because, well, let's be honest, the last thing that a lot of people want to do is look inside themselves. It's just the way it is. I had learned a long time ago that I have to look inside myself, and I have to keep looking inside myself, because if I don't, I will just fall prey to the typical human instincts, which, humans are predatory by nature, and so that's the last thing I want to do. I do not want to be predatory. So I could have named this a lot of different things, and one of the things that I was tempted to name it was Get Over Yourself. Because essentially, that is what this is about. So, let's talk a little bit about goals and motivation. First of all, it's very important to keep the two as far apart as what you can. Some people set goals for their motivation. Okay, let's take weight loss, for instance. That's a popular one. Somebody will say, I want to lose 30 pounds. So, that is both their goal and their motivation. What happens more often than not? First week starts out good, big difference. Second week, doing pretty good, big difference. Third week, oh crap, stuff is slowing down. Very possibly the fourth week, they may notice no change, or they might have went backwards a little bit. That is usually where the diet ends. And the reason why is because they set their motivation as the same thing as their goal. They wanted to lose weight. And you can attach anything to that you want, whether they wanted to do it for appearance sake or whether they wanted to do it for health sake, whatever the reason they had, they are still attaching their motivation to their goal. And that's a huge mistake. So, one way to prevent that, and again, I emphasize difference between goals and motivation. One way to bypass that trap is to set your motivation big enough, high enough, so that it can never come down and crush your goals. Now, it's probably no secret at this point that the Father is my motivation. He's got to be. Why? I don't know what to say, man. I don't know what to say. I've had about, and again, I could have titled this Get Over Yourself, so pay attention here. There are a whole lot of reasons in the world why I could complain. There are a whole lot of reasons why I could walk around and be woe is me from sun up till sundown. But that's not going to get anyone anywhere. In fact, instead of getting anyone anywhere, it's going to be holding back not only myself but those around me. Plain and simple. So I would actually be moving backwards on my goals. So I set my motivation higher than man. I mean mankind by that. And the reason why is because I used to be one of those people that used to set my motivations and my goals to be very earthly things. And I wound up more often than not being crushed because of simple failures. And so I learned to rethink my goals, my motivation, I learned to reach out for, in my opinion, the most important motivation possible, and that's the Father. And I never looked back. You don't want to look back. You don't want to look back. I keep that as my motivation because like I say, I've been crushed before by different failures on different things. And so I've had to learn to keep those two things very, very separate. And I've reached a point, okay, I fail at stuff every day. I don't even think about it, you know. No matter how big, no matter how little, I don't even think about it. Most of the time it doesn't even really register because I'm too busy trying again or trying something else. That's just my nature. So, you know, with this whole thing, you know, there's a lot of things, like I said, I could complain about, I could go on and on about, I could bitch about, I could find a million excuses in the world as to why I shouldn't try to push further on my goals, but I don't. The most frustrating failure that I've had in recent times is probably going to sound really messed up to people. The most bothersome failure is the fact that there's this custom airport in the flight simulator that I have not successfully landed at yet. That's it. And yeah, I get frustrated with that. But you know what? I call that a win. Because if that's what frustrates me, and everything else that's going on in the world, all the nonsense I talk about on the news, just life in general, if those aren't the things at the top of my frustration level, and yet trying to land at a particular airport in a simulator is what's at the top, I must be doing something right. I must be doing something right. And I'll get there. I'll land. I'll get that airport. I just, you know, it's one of those things. Number one, I have to be relaxed when I fly. I like to be relaxed because that is my happy time. That is my relaxed time. That is my me time, is when I'm holding that stick in my hands and I'm flying. Nothing puts me at peace more aside from working on things and repairing things. That does put me in a little more peace than the flight sim. I love to work on stuff. I love to fix stuff. But even then, if I fail at fixing stuff, in which I do, I don't let it bother me. Now, it might be different if it was something that I was really, really relying on and really, really needed that. Sure, I'm sure I'd be a little bit more frustrated in that particular situation. However, I'm not going to let it stop me. I am not going to let it put a damper on the objective, the mission that I need to accomplish. I'm going to look at the situation. I'm going to reassess the situation, change anything that I need to change, and I'm going to push forward. Why? Because I didn't set my motivation and my goal in the same place. Two totally different things. So it's very, very, very important to keep those things separate. You have to pick your motivations wisely. You know, I said that the last couple of videos kind of are coming to a head with this one. Well, beware of the emo capitalists. And that was lesson 8. And the reason why that is important is because there is nothing that will zap your motivation quicker than an emo capitalist, right? And they will also alter your motivation. You have to be careful of that too. I mentioned before that, okay, this whole idea, this pipe dream, this fairy tale that a lot of preppers have about how it's just going to be them and their group that survives the end of the world. Bullshit. If you just plan on keeping it to your group, your little group, no matter how little or big that group is, if you're just keeping to that, it's only a matter of time. If you're the only humans that exist on Earth, it's only a matter of time before humans are extinct. Why? Because you have to think bigger than yourself. This whole thing when it comes to SHTF, you have to think bigger than yourself. You are not going to be able to sustain yourself by yourself. And when I say that, I mean that not only as an individual, but also as a group. You have to think bigger. You have to push bigger. You have to be bigger. Or you will fail. It's incredibly important in an SHTF situation that we are building. Not keeping the same, not just trying to maintain. No. That bullshit ain't going to cut it. You're going to have to build. You're going to have to set your sights much further than yourself and your group. And if you don't, you're going to fail. You're going to fail. There's a lot of these prepping channels that get out there and they spit out a bunch of bullshit nonsense. But are they really helping you in the times that you're going to need it? Are they really helping you in the times when you're absolutely defeated because you just can't get this or that working? You're outside, you're trying to get this or that fixed, and it's raining, and it's cold, and it's nasty, it's dreary. And no matter what you do, you just cannot get that generator to start, whatever it is. Is all the bullshit that they've gone on and on and on and on and on about going to help you? Nah, ain't going to make a damn bit of difference. What's going to help you is you and the Father. You have to have an understanding. You have to have an understanding that you are in control. May not be in control of a lot, but there's one damn thing that you can be in control of 24/7, and that's your attitude. I have seen people that do absolute shit jobs with the best attitude you could ever imagine. And I've seen people that many would look at as successful with shit attitudes. And if their position in life depended on who they are and what they can achieve, they would be nowhere because of that shit attitude. Now, the sad thing is that guy with the crap job sweeping the floors or whatever can have the best attitude in the world, but because of the world's politics, and I don't mean that in a Democrat-Republican way, I mean that in a society way, because of the world's politics and their bullshit fake lives, that person will likely get demeaned, made fun of. Right? You had somebody that worked maintenance, floor maintenance, or whatever. They were a janitor and they were walking around with bubbly. How many people would laugh at them in today's society? Look at that idiot. Sweeping the floor, singing, whistling. That guy's nuts. That's today's society. That's the kind of mindset that a lot of these prepper channels are trying to teach you. Get over yourself. Because if you aren't working towards something much bigger than you, what the hell are you even working on? Sustainability? Survival? Of what? Of what? It's got to be more than about you. It's got to be more than about your group. I'm not telling you that The only way is to worship the Father. I can't tell you that. That's my path. That's what I'm doing, because I realize it doesn't matter a damn bit what I think. What is, and I will have to deal with what is at some time. So I'm going to pull my head out of my ass and realize that it's bigger than me. If we do not do this, if we cannot achieve this, then we will fail early on. I don't have all the answers. In fact, I have very few of them. But I know one thing for sure. If I want to help you, it's going to be by motivating. It's going to be by helping you try to find your own motivations. Not by laying this stuff out there. Not by coming out and making videos on, well, what if this happens? Then you'd have to do this and this and this and this. It's prepper fantasy bullshit. And these channels aren't helping you by putting you in fake hypothetical situations and telling you how they would deal with it. Most of these motherfuckers, when the time comes, ain't going to do so well. And the reason why is because a lot of people that run their mouth don't have nothing behind it. They're empty suits. They run their mouth because that works for most people, right? Look at a bully. It's no different. Same exact mindset. They run their mouth, and most people, that's enough. They back away, right? I don't want none of that because that motherfucker talks some mean shit. Well, I'm telling you, as the guy that will walk right up and punch you square in the fucking face, bullies are pussies. Plain and simple. I'll use an example. Again, it's supposed to be about getting over myself, but I can only use examples from my life, right? And this ain't about me getting over myself. I got really nothing to get over. But, you know, I've got a lot of examples in my life where I've had to, well, not had to, where I've made the choice just to be humble and walk away. And I've actually done that way more often than not in my lifetime. Because I'm not the guy that wants to be out there running my mouth about this and that and the other thing. I'm not that guy. I'm one of those guys that you probably won't notice, and that ain't by accident. That ain't by accident. For one, I'm an observer. I will sit back and I will observe. I don't have to be the life of the party. I don't have to be in the middle of everything. I'm happy sitting over in the corner watching everybody else. Why? Because that's how you learn. You don't learn with your mouth open going, la, 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 la. You don't learn that way. Sometimes you got to just shut the fuck up and listen. Plain and simple. I've been able to tell a lot about different people, different personalities, and stuff like that because I've spent a lifetime sitting back and observing people. I've learned a lot about what makes different people tick. That includes bullies. That includes those that get bullied. And I learned quite a few things. And that is why I will call out bullshit when I see it. If somebody's an empty suit, I'll call them right out. Why? Because I don't want you to fail, and you shouldn't have to fail because some jackass with a big mouth talks a good game out of his own self-importance, his or her, or not being able to get over themselves, puts you down a dark path because of whatever they've gotten out of it. Have to pick your motivation wisely. Pick it very, very, very wisely. You have to make it much bigger than you. You have to make it much bigger than your group. You have to make it much bigger than your children, your family. It's got to be bigger than all that. Because every time there's a failure at those levels, it's going to chip away from your motivation. That's the last thing that you want. You want to be in a position in which failure increases your motivation. And if you're focused inward, you're not going to be able to do that. Not going to be able to do that. And I would argue that you're going to have a hell of a time building. You won't be able to sustain or maintain. You damn sure won't be able to build. And after all, isn't that what we should really be focused on? Again, let's say if you've got a group, we'll keep numbers small and simple. Say you got a group of 10 people. That's your group. You're going to survive out the end of days with those 10 people. Well, 2 weeks in, Bob gets food poisoning and dies. You're down to 9 people. 6 weeks later, you get in a firefight and 2 of your people succumb to their injuries. You're down to 7 people. Right? Any number of things. Guy goes to go fell a tree and it falls on him, kills him, so now you're down to 6 peeps. Now you don't have enough peeps to be able to keep your own stuff going, and I'm just throwing these numbers out there, be able to keep sustaining yourself, be able to have enough hands to be able to plant, harvest, and all of the other things, and so the rest of you just slowly starve. Where did you fail? You failed because you chose not to grow. You failed because you didn't set your motivation beyond yourself or your group. But if you continue to expand, if you keep pushing forward and outward, and you do so with a big enough motivation, you're going to reap the rewards. You got to beware, like I said, of the emo capitalists, because they'll destroy you before you get anywhere. Because why? Well, they don't really want to get anywhere. And if they do, they want to do it on your back, not their own. Sacrifice. Because sometimes when you fail at goals, sometimes that's the best answer, is just to sacrifice that goal. I've ran into that I don't know how many times. Sometimes it's just best to cut your losses and move forward. That's a sacrifice. A lot of people don't want to sacrifice anything because they've gotten used to being able to have their cake and eat it too in many, many different ways. That's why the sacrifice video is important. And then that leaves your motivation. Your motivation has to be high enough that regardless of what you sacrifice, you're willing to continue pushing forward, pushing outward, and growing. So yeah, you got to get over yourself. You got to get over your group. Got to get over your tribe. You got to find something bigger. Anyway, that's what I've got for this. Hopefully you could take from it what you can. Hopefully it helped you. Hopefully it helped somebody. This stuff's important. You're not going to hear other prepping channels talk about this stuff. You're not going to hear them get down deep to the root of things. And you're not going to hear them call you out as an individual to look inside yourself. Why? Because that's not good for the numbers. Take a look at the views. Take a look at the views on these videos. I'm not here to massage you. I'm not here to make you feel warm and fuzzy. I'm not here to get you to keep coming back for more. I'm not here to get you to buy anything. I'm here to help you. And the truth of the matter is, if you're not willing to help yourself, there ain't a damn thing I can do for you or anyone else. Why? Because your motivation isn't there. Highly important. Highly important. Hopefully it's made a little bit of sense for folks, and I'm really hoping folks understand that community is where it's at. You're not going to survive if you just try to survive as a small group or a family or just a few people. Not going to work. It's unrealistic. These prepper channels are running people down such a bad path. It's insane. And there are people out there that's trying to get the truth out, that's trying to talk about what's truly important, what's not bullshit, what's not somebody with a camera in front of them going, talking a bunch of shit and making it sound good, and giving everybody false hopes and false motivations and a bunch of nonsense, to be honest. This is where it's at. You on the inside is where it's at. But you have to remember that it's not about you. Crazy. I cannot recommend enough that people look on the inside. Honestly, look on the inside. And when you see the things that you don't like, the things that you don't, if there are words that other people say that bother you, then guess what? There's probably those things that you need to work on about yourself. That's why it bothered you, because you didn't want to look on the inside. That's why these videos that I'm doing here aren't very popular, aren't very liked. People don't want to look inside themselves. Why? They ain't got a motivation bigger than themselves. Themselves is their motivation. They're so trapped within themselves, they don't have room for anything, no less growing. Father's a great motivation, but you got to be willing to surrender, give up your bullshit, and live for him. It's not for everybody. The father being the motivation for everybody, that's not, no. I think if some people tried to set their motivation that high, it would have horrid results. But find something bigger than yourself. You don't have to be a believer. Just find something bigger than yourself. Find something bigger than your group. Find something that you can still work towards when all else goes wrong. That's when you set your motivation correctly. Hope y'all have a good day. I will see you soon. Shalom.